Hello, everybody. We are back, and believe it or not, the H2O show is back in business. You may be looking around and saying, where are we? We are back in the new LASA campus on Arthur Stiles Road, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
It'll work.
And I got with me today two fantastic guests. We have the wonderful senior student class president, Miss Sally, and the man, the myth, the legend himself. His dad, believe it or not, actually now teaches at this school.
Yeah.
The man, Senior Elliot. I want to thank y'all both for coming on.
Thank you.
Of course. Yeah, thanks for having us.
Now, I really want to talk about this first because I think this is really cool. So Sally, you were on it's YAG, Youth and Student Government, right?
Yes, Youth and Government. Mm-hmm.
And Elliot, you are joining that, correct?
Yeah. It's definitely, yeah.
So I was wondering if you could kind of now, so people understand, y'all won nationals.
We did, yeah.
So can you just kind of walk us through what that was like, what happened?
Of course, for sure. Well, early last year, probably like October, Zoe Klein approached me and asked me if I was interested in joining a team that her and Nevin were forming. Oh, yeah, let me tell And I had never done mock trial before, but it's always something I'd been interested in. And my older cousin, she had done it before, and she was like, Sally, it's such a great experience. It's so much fun. So I was thinking, like, yeah, sure, why not? And so it was me, Zoe, Nevin, Lucy, Andrew Shabani, Catherine, Maisie, who's a junior. And I knew a couple of them beforehand, but like most of them I was like pretty new with. I hadn't really talked to them very much. So we worked from October till July last year on mock trial and on case theory and things like that. So we had district and state where we placed first at district, third at state. And then we qualified for nationals over the summer, which was an entirely new case, a really like just a new experience. But the whole process, it was just so much fun. It was definitely a lot of work. There were a lot of hours put in on everyone's parts, but everyone was just really dedicated, and those are some of my closest friends now. So yeah, we all just really, dedicated ourselves and our time, and it was a great experience. I would absolutely do it again.
Oh yeah. And now typically, because y'all had to do this over Zoom, right?
Yeah.
So what was that experience
My
like?
gosh, it was definitely unique. Like, I'd never been in a actual courtroom mock trial experience before. So it was all really just new for me. And then with the format, because so much about mock trial is interacting, the witness, the attorneys, the attorneys interacting with the judge, so much intrapersonal dialogue. But with Zoom, it was pretty, that was all pretty limited. And it was much more, at least for me, not as nerve-wracking because it was just you in your bedroom with a computer as opposed to you on a witness stand in front of everyone. But then for nationals, we had all been vaccinated and we all got tested, and those of us who were in town met at Lucy's house for a week, and we all just stayed there the entire week. Zoe Haug made this really incredible homemade pasta, which is, wow. I love it. So we all just kind of stayed together, got ready together, ate together. It was just this really cute bonding experience. And so being able to do it kind of in person with the team, even though national competition was still over Zoom, it was definitely a fun experience to be in person.
Hello. We're good to be in here, right?
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, y'all can be in.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah, I forgot.
No, you can't be.
No. I forgot to mention our school is still actively under construction, so it is an adventure.
Air conditioning is still being fixed.
Yeah.
In a lot of the building.
Oh.
So y'all spent essentially 6 days at this house, and y'all just spent it prepping for the trial?
It was, that first day, it was just all prep, all running through the case, because we'd been working over the summer. We met for 2 hours twice a week since school ended up until that last week of July to prep for the case. But yeah, that week it was just solely preparing for the case, running the case, rewriting some opening and closing, and then those 4 other days we were in trials and things like that. So yeah.
Now, what was, if you don't mind me asking, what was the case that they ended up having y'all do?
Absolutely. So for district and state, it was Reisenhoover versus the Waco Tribune Herald, and it was about the Davidian compound raid in Waco, which was really interesting because I have family in Waco, and so whenever I told them, they're like, oh, we saw that in the Waco Tribune. I was like, no way. So that was our district and state case. And then for nationals, we got a new case, which wasn't quite as fun. It was about a police officer who shot a pit bull, and then like seeing if that was an unreasonable search and seizure of someone's property or if it was like reasonable self-defense on the part of the police officer. So it was still an interesting case, but I was definitely partial to district and state a bit more.
And I remember a fly on the wall told me this, that y'all, so at state, y'all managed to get third, which is incredible. But then y'all managed to get first at nationals, which on the grand scheme of things is a pretty massive jump.
It definitely is.
How, I mean, did y'all make some adjustments between those time frames that led to your success?
We definitely did. I think we worked a lot more collaboratively, especially in establishing like the case theory, and because we all looked through like the previous cases and we all kind of read through the entire case materials to develop our theory and to develop our arguments, whereas in district and state, it was Zoe and Evan, our attorneys, primarily did that and then wrote our direct and our cross questions, and then we just kind of went over the affidavits again and again and again and rehearsed our answers, whereas in nationals, we were actively like writing our cross questions, which, we would not be asked, but our character counterparts on the other team would be asked. We were coming up with like reasoning and what we wanted to pursue and different legal avenues. So it was more collaborative in nature, I would say.
I see. And you think that collaboration really sort of helped y'all kind of take it to that next level?
Yeah, I really think so. I think everybody had been used to doing it for, district and state, so we all kind of had our footing. And I think all being able to, like, I know there was this one point where I was an expert witness, I was a veterinarian who was like, this dog is not properly trained, blah, 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 on the defense side. And in one of the exhibits for the trial, there was this brochure about a training program that the pit bull had underwent, which I had argued was like disreputable, couldn't be trusted, and on the flyer, it said something like it was endorsed by the American Kennel Club or something, which my witness was a part of. So for cross, I was like, okay, you've got to ask him. One, are you a member of the American Kennel Club? And two, do you understand that this organization, which you say is disreputable, is supported by an organization that you're a member of? And so it was just little things like that where some of us were more familiar with our witnesses, and thus we could kind of contribute more heavily to things that like Zoe and Evan, because they had to manage the entire case, might have like just overlooked. So small details like that, I think.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, when y'all competed, were there any teams that y'all went up against who was like, what are y'all doing? Like, did anything like, got a wild and crazy happen?
Yes, absolutely. So
Story time.
Oh, this is my favorite. In our first trial as the defense, it was me, Shivani, and Zoe who were the defense witnesses. We were going up against, I think they were from Louisiana. It was some other team. Mm-hmm. And so we, they did the prosecution. They did a fine job. It wasn't spectacular, but it wasn't bad. Like, they did good. And then we got up for the defense. And then so we did Zoe did her direct. She did great. And then they spent, I want to say we have 15 minutes for cross overall for the entire section. They spent about 12 minutes of that cross just on Zoe's character. And mind you, of course, she's a very important witness and part of the case. But spending all of that time on Zoe, it was like, oh, that's not a great strategy for that team. But anyway, we were like, okay, maybe they know what they're doing. And then they go to question Shivani. They spend, I forgot how much, but they had 30 seconds to cross me. So I was like, and me being the expert witness, they could ask me stuff that wasn't directly in the scope of my affidavit. So they had a lot more leeway with what they could ask me. And they could definitely trap my witness because there were some interesting things in my affidavit. But they just posed one question. I was like, can you rephrase that for me? And they said the question again, and their count was, so I didn't have to answer any of their crosses.
Wow. You can just do that? You can stall it?
I know, it was amazing.
So they just straight up had a horrible time.
They had and think we won that one. Not surprising. That was probably the craziest thing. But
who did y'all end up going up against in that final trial?
The final trial, it was another Texas team. All the Texas teams were really solid. I think collectively we ranked the highest of the different states that attended the conference, and it was us against this other Texas team who we'd gone over when we were defense and they were prosecution, but the roles were switched, and now they were prosecution, we were defense. So we were kind of nervous for that. I feel like I remember this. I think because we had that trial on like the first day where we were against them as a defense, and we used ideas that they had from the prosecution. We just implemented that into our case theories. So then we kind of went back at them with some of their arguments that they didn't have great answers for. So that was satisfying. But yeah, it was a fun time. It was a lot of work, but the payoff was really great.
Yeah. And so, kind of bringing this to Elliot, so you are now entering this realm. What kind of was the switch that said, hey man, I want to do this?
So I've always kind of had the interest of like being, I was kind of a theater kid in middle school, but I never really could pursue it because of band and everything along those lines. So I've always kind of been the wanting to do like the acting role and stuff like that, and hearing when the first time's like this, I'm learning actually a lot more now through this than I've ever, but it's like hearing that like idea of like playing a witness and stuff like that, and you have this role that you have to like align to, and then you can like, but then you also have like questions that will sometimes divert from that role. Makes it really interesting to me because it's something where it's like you can just you have to define yourself on something that may be so different from who you are as a person. Just makes it really interesting and really something that's like intriguing to me.
That's awesome. And so y'all had your first introductory meeting today, right?
We had last Monday was one for like people who had been on the team last year to come to, but this past Monday we had like our first team-wide meeting where everybody was in attendance. Yeah.
There's a lot of people there.
It was,
more than I thought.
We had like 50 people signed up on like the
50. Oh my god.
I know, right?
There was not 50 people in that room.
I know. I think we like shared the link, and Zoe was like, "We have so many people."
Oh my gosh.
It's a really big turnout this year.
Yeah, when I walked in, I was half expecting that it was just gonna be the team that we were like, because that's what I heard. I thought it was like mock trial team. That's what mock trial club and stuff like that. But then when I heard these like all these different things like a legislative, like the media and stuff like that, I'm like, wait, there's more things here.
Yeah, for sure.
And you have 50 people that showed up now.
That's what Zoe, the co-president, she told me about. Yeah, the sign up form.
How many people are doing mock trial?
I don't think we do, or I think Zoe does. She hasn't told me, but
okay.
I think they have a tentative idea.
That is awesome. That is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to wish y'all best of luck when y'all, because y'all the goal is to go round 2.
Oh,
yeah. So I'm not that much of a detriment.
Yeah, if we don't go, it's all your fault.
Okay, yeah, I'll take it.
Now, I do want to ask this. So because you are in band.
Yeah.
And obviously you do orchestra.
I did the past 3 years, but this year,
This year mixed it.
yeah.
It's a lot of time.
Yeah.
It's a lot of commitment. And remind me, so you play violin.
I do.
What do you play?
Saxophone.
Ooh. Wow.
Yeah.
Now, when y'all got into music, was that something that your parents made you do? Was that something that you just sort of found? How did y'all get involved?
I definitely found it, but I also had an insane musical influence because a lot of my grandparents have both done it. My dad loved the marching band as a high schooler, and so he just constantly was obsessing about it. So they made it my choice, but my choice was very biased, and so yeah, I definitely found it as something where it's fun, and then I just kind of pushed it through there, and then found my home in a way.
I'm kind of the opposite. My parents enrolled me when I was like 3 in starting violin and piano, and my mom had played like piano, since elementary school, and she played in college, and then she'd also played the violin. And my dad, I think he was in marching band. I think he's a drummer. So it was like really important to them that like me and my brother both get exposed to kind of this more musical, cultural side of our education to supplement what we're learning in school. And so it was like, I have very vivid memories of me and my brother when we're like, 7, having to go to violin lessons, like, oh, we really don't want to do this. Yeah. But I think as I've grown up, I've really come to appreciate what a great outlet that music creativity can give you. And this year, it's my last year within the studio with a teacher who I've had since I was 3, and I was like first student out of grad school. And he's a really big like presence mentor in my life. And I'm going to be doing like a senior recital where I play some of my favorite repertoire that I've learned over the years. And I'm going to play like one piece with him and then one piece with my brother that I absolutely adore. It's an amazing piece, but it's it's just a nice way, I think, to kind of, I don't know if you agree with this, Elliot, but like after school, just like,
Oh yeah.
not a stressful environment where you can just kind of be creative and have that atmosphere.
I think that's definitely the case when you're not in the class, because when you're in a class, they'll put due dates on it. They'll put like, if you've heard of like region band, it's similar to YAG and stuff like that. Region band and region orchestra is like this whole thing where you have to be prepared and you compete against every kid in the region.
Worst.
It's super stressful, and I have region jazz band coming up in just in a few weeks now, and so it's something where it's like, oh, that's something that I have to practice. So I have to come home from marching band after 2 hours of practicing to go practice an hour. So it's just a whole thing.
Now, both of y'all, I mean, if you really think about it, because you play saxophone, you're playing violin. These are two very, very important instruments, right? I mean, especially in the field of jazz. I mean, you think about John Coltrane and the sort of, I mean, I'm very biased to John Coltrane.
You're good. John Coltrane's the best.
And other saxophone. I mean, the saxophone is, many would argue, to be the centerpiece of jazz music. And obviously, when it comes to orchestra compositions, I speak English, let's go. When it comes to orchestra compositions, obviously the violin is a very, very, you're not the dude in the back playing the triangle, right? You're up front and you're making that. And I am curious, did y'all select those instruments? How did y'all select those instruments? And, was it like, hey, like I know I'm going to be more in the front when it comes to the compositions that you end up playing?
My answer is pretty simple, is that I just saw people having a blast with the saxophone in the stands, and like I saw like clips on like YouTube and stuff like that, and I was like, that's it. I'd never really had a variety of exposure. I kind of just found it and then started taking lessons at 5th grade, and so then I was kind of just pushed it through there, and no matter if I didn't even try out other instruments like the clarinet or the trumpet or anything like that. I just pushed it through from like finding the saxophone. Like, cool, that's it.
Yeah, it's like my mom wanted me to learn how to play the violin, so that's what I've been doing. And it was definitely like I did Austin Youth Orchestra in like late elementary, middle school. Okay. And it was definitely kind of like, wow, like violins are very much like emphasized. And in terms of like competition for region, for state, there's just so many proficient players in the realm of the violin. Like, not to say that isn't true with the viola or the cello or the bass, like, but especially with violin, just the talent is so concentrated. It's like kind of, it's very intimidating. I don't know why
Texas is good at everything. I know. like you talking about YAG, and then we have like, if you in the state of marching band and stuff like that, marching band, Texas has one of like the biggest and like the best marching bands in the U.S. And like, and I just don't. It's like you're competing against the best people when going to these small district competitions. Like, you have to compete against the best before like you even get outside of the state, which is just like, well, what can I do here?
Well, that's a good point. Like, why, and that does. I mean, that's a very good point. Is why? Because I play water polo, right? And the Texas water polo division has always been strangely very.
My cousins are the were Texas MVPs for water polo.
Wow! What? Please tell me their names.
Cameron Cullen and Kristen, and yes, that is her name. Yeah, Catherine Cullen.
And do you know? And this may be specific. Do you know what teams they ended up playing for?
Oh, I think they're from Denton.
My cousins are from Denton.
Wow! Small world. But yeah, it's there. But I have like learned how to swim kind of up, because when I would drive up there, that's where I kind of learned. But they were like, my uncle's a coach for water polo, so I just know a lot of that stuff. But it's just really weird talking to people, and I'm just like, yeah, I have no association with water polo, but my cousins are very, very good at water polo.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, and that's kind of weird. Like, why is Texas such a powerhouse?
Yeah.
I mean, is it almost like our mentality of like, hey, we're Texas, like, don't screw with us? Do you think we just like we're good at bringing in talent? I mean,
I think we have a large pool to pick from in a lot of ways. That our schools are like, marching bands are 300 people plus, like, And like when you compete in those those things, I'm guessing up in like Tennessee, you'll have like 5 people compete for like the saxophone instead of having the 30 or like we've had a trumpet. I remember one trumpet time we had 50
Wow.
trumpets all competing at region band. It's just wild.
Yeah.
And
I think it's the same for region and state orchestra. I've tried out I've done region since like 6th grade, and I've really enjoyed it. And I've tried out for state.
How do you enjoy it?
Past like
I don't get it.
Prepping for it, awful.
Yeah.
Etude's awful, but the experience.
The experience is definitely
Yeah,
worth it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I've tried out for state a couple years, and it's so incredibly selective within like the talent pool. Not only are these all incredibly talented young musicians, but there's just so many.
Yeah.
That's at least my experience, what I found it to be.
Yeah. Well, no, and y'all are definitely. I mean, it makes sense. Our volume is leading to that. To bow. Elliot's like, I am staying here.
Yeah, he's my ride, so.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, I don't know what you're doing here. Hopefully. Yeah, are we going? Maybe. Okay, I think this is working. Sorry, it like
No, you're
broke
good.
down for a second.
Oh.
I don't know.
We'll see.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna do a quick clap because I don't know why that did that, but okay, hopefully that works. So I wanted to ask, and I think this is kind of cool. So because both Elliot and I, we went through public school education, right?
I went to Keeling,
Yeah,
which is public school, but
Public school.
application based. Exactly like LASA.
Right. But you, on the other hand, Sally, you went through private school,
I did, yeah.
and I'm very curious to know what that experience is like.
I am as well.
Well. Let me.
How do I describe this in the best way possible?
Sally, I will tell you now, this is the H2O show. You can go hard in the paint.
Nevin's been on here. You heard what Nevin has said.
Okay. I'll try to be diplomatic. I feel I'm glad I went there for the time that I did, and I think it enriched my education experience, and I think I was meant to be where I ended up. So I'm happy I went there. Even more happy I ended up at LASA. But I'd been there since like kindergarten to 8th grade, and 2 of my older cousins who like live like right across the street, like 2 houses down from us, they went to the same school, and they're both one's a freshman in college right now, one's a sophomore in college right now, so they're 2 years ahead of me. And so they both went to this school that I went to, and I just went after because like my parents were like, oh, you know, they've had a great experience, might as well send Sally. And so elementary school was great. It was very, very homogenous, very much white, very much Christian, very much conservative. But you know, as a second grader, you don't really notice those things. But getting into middle school and kind of recognizing, you know, more of that atmosphere and recognizing how that's very much a detriment to my education because I'm not getting, you know, those more diverse perspectives and understandings in a lot of like the context, especially in history courses. Man, oh my goodness, very problematic things that went on.
Can you
to
please
say
share,
the least?
Please share one
Okay,
example.
I will-
hear one
I'm-
example.
Christopher Columbus, the prime example.
Okay. We had like theme days, right? So one day there's like mammal day and like kindergarten where you're like dressed up as a mammal. It was like cute stuff. We had a day celebrating colonialism where we all dressed us as like colonial figures. We had an interesting experience visiting a plantation as a field trip, followed by a southern dance. and
Ooh.
where problematic things went on. I don't really want to elaborate.
So
but
break this down. So y'all, wait, was the colonial thing in conjunction with the
the colonial
plantation
day
trip?
was 5th grade.
Okay.
The plantation trip was 6th grade.
And how did they go through? Can you tell us about that?
We
part?
very
Mindful
much
things.
learned about the War of Northern Aggression. We did not learn about the Civil War in our curriculum.
Ooh, wow.
And so middle school, I was like, okay, this is a problem. I gotta get out. And there are just certain things that went on with my family because, I am multi-ethnic, and because a lot of what my mom wanted for me and what my parents wanted for me to, embrace that like part of my culture, learn more about that part of my culture, but also be surrounded by these different perspectives just wasn't provided for me there. So we made the collective decision to go to LASA, which is one of my best decisions
brother
in
goes
my
here as well,
17.
right?
Yeah, he goes here as
Yeah.
well. And my cousins continued in high school there. It just got worse. The trend was down. This particular school, which will remain unnamed, it's not a school I'd recommend, but I'm glad I went there for the time I did. Feel like I learned some stuff. Glad I got out. That's yeah.
And how? And I am curious to ask this question. How was the adjustment? Like, you're obviously going from, put nicely, a very
Bubble environment.
yeah. You're going from a bubble that, I mean, obviously, did they literally say the War of Northern Aggression? Yeah. So it's a very
Yeah.
yeah. It's a bubble, and it's got a little KKK tones to it. But that's
Definitely,
okay.
definitely.
How is it going from sort of that situation and going to LASA, which is, I mean, I would say LASA is still a bubble. I don't
Yeah,
deny
we
that.
have our problems, absolutely.
But
But comparatively,
yeah, comparatively, it's night and day.
absolutely, absolutely.
How is that? I guess I'm going to say, how is that cultural adjustment for you?
I think one thing my parents did really well is supplementing the education that I received at the private school with like a real world understanding of the problems that members of my family faced because of our ethnicity, but also the problems that were going on in our city, in our country. So I think kudos to both my parents for not just leaving it at the education I received at private school and like calling it a day. I think they were really proactive about making sure that I understood the complexities that I wasn't getting in my middle school and elementary school classes. But going to LASA, I think I knew like 3 people in freshman year, so didn't know a lot of people. So I feel like it definitely gave me like time and space to like kind of not reinvent myself, because that sounds too cliche, but just like reevaluate like the type of person I wanted to be, what I wanted to pursue, the type of relationships I wanted to foster. And in that way, I feel like it was just a really positive change. Because I felt like it gave me space to reevaluate a lot of things, which was really fun.
If you don't mind, could you, and obviously if you're comfortable doing, can
Yeah.
you kind of walk us through that? Like, okay, when you say reevaluate, like what's going on in your head? What are the things that you're reevaluating?
For sure. I mean, I think just basically it comes down to like, what type of person do I want to present myself as? And like, I was very introverted all middle school, all elementary school, very much like the quiet girl. I would go to the library during recess to read because I didn't know, like, I'll tell you, very, very nerdy, very quiet.
They're the exact opposite.
Not to say I'm not still dirty. I definitely am. But I think at LASA, I was like, I'm going to be a lot more intentional about like meeting new people, putting myself out there, trying new things. And I'm really glad I did, because I feel like I was able to develop a lot as a person. I feel like now, I feel like I can just go over to like anyone in the hall and be like, hey.
Yeah, we never talk to each other and you're high-fiving down the hall.
Like, I feel like I'm much more secure and confident in the person I am, because, yeah, that's basically what I would say to that.
Well, in flashback, we had a football game on Friday. Sally Edwards goes in front of the entire student section.
Fun times.
And does a fantastic job.
Thank you.
And is it something? Do you feel like you are naturally an introvert and you just sort of was like, hey, I want to challenge myself and kind of go outside my comfort zone? Or, because I know this happens too, and I don't know if you've experienced this, I have, where it's like, you're naturally an extrovert, but there's sort of this environmental pressure to sort of keep it in.
I think kind of both. I think definitely as a little kid. I don't know how much you can read from that, but I was definitely like more quiet, more reserved. And I think being with like I had like a class of maybe like 60 kids who I'd been with since like kindergarten. So being with those same 60 kids in that same environment for 9 years was definitely like, you were the quiet girl. That's who you were. And like, not a lot of space to change, you know? And I don't know if I would call myself an extrovert, or at least at that point. But I think coming to LASA, I was able to be like more intentional about like, okay, I want to put myself more out there. And I think it's just come naturally, everything else, to be a bit more like open and extroverted.
And now, as it's been stated, Elliot and I. Oh, Sally's got.
I gotta go.
Do you mind if I take a picture?
Oh,
of
yeah,
y'all
go.
just sitting
Yeah.
at this table? Because I want to be. Because I'm gonna
Document
hype this
it.
up.
Yes.
No, it was so funny. I told some buddies of mine that I was doing this podcast. They're like, "Who are you having?" And I'm Elliot Ward and Sally Edwards. They go, "What?" Which I thought that was really funny. So I'm gonna.
How do they not know us?
I know, gosh.
All right,
I'm so glad I don't have to
people.
smile.
I know, right?
Oh, that is awesome.
Okay,
Alrighty,
perfect.
thank
Okay,
you, Sally.
absolutely, yeah.
Do you know you were here for 30? This is a 30-minute.
Wow.
It goes by fast.
It goes by fast. Do you want me to stay, Jack? I can stay.
Yeah, let's.
I'll move.
Yeah.
I'll move to the better spot.
Also, don't forget your. Is this
Phone
your-
and-
It is, yes.
Water.
I have to acknowledge the metal straw is very, very
Thank
cool.
you.
I love the
for
medals.
my friend for my birthday. We love being environmentally conscious. Okay, bye guys.
Awesome.
Thank
Have a good
you.
one.
See you,
And
Sally.
next time, we gotta. Well, I don't, because I vary my guests,
Yeah.
but I think you should come on again.
I would be happy.
What, has Never come on like 3 times now?
Yeah, have a good one.
Does Nevin beg you at this point?
Guys, well, it's so interesting having Nevin on the
Oh, yeah.
because I think Nevin, and I love Nevin. Like
Yeah.
I would say Nevin is probably my best friend,
That's amazing, yeah.
and I think that he is one of the most misunderstood people at LASA generally.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Is I think that Nevin, and Nevin, please do not get mad at me. I'm trying to say that I'm being diplomatic. I'm trying to figure out how to word this. I think people see Nevin's genius, and I think that people oftentimes only focus on the genius aspect of Nevin.
I definitely can see that, yeah.
And they don't focus on everything else that he has to offer and who he is. And I think it's very interesting because I see the way people interact with him and they only see that one side.
Yeah.
And me being very, very close to Nevin, like sort of seeing his full embodiment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like you've seen him grow up. You've seen him, like, has he always been like I guess I'm now interviewing you, but like, has he always been
That's cool.
has he always been the nerdy Nevin that loves Winston Churchill? Has he always been that, or has he because Nevin, if you're seeing this, but it's like, in a way, you are very extroverted now. It's like, though your intelligence and your attitude and social may not like stereotypically collide, I think Nevin is like, he's a prime example of that. The nerds can still be the popular kids in a way.
Oh yeah.
And has he always been kind of like that?
So I will definitely. So Nevin and I went to a school by the name of Cassis Elementary.
Yeah, right by my house. Yeah.
And Cassis hated us. They hated our guts because, like, because Cassis was very much, it was a white school,
Mhm.
and I don't want to say it's very different from Sally's school, but in the sense that, like, the ideas of like thinking out of the box and like having. How do I say this? The ideas of going outside of the flow, going outside of the mold, was not something that was embraced by that school. And so Nevin, who is very much
Outside of the mold
type of a guy, was immediately attacked. Like people would bully him all the time. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And for myself, like, on the surface, I look normal and I like act normal, but when you get to know me, like, dude, shit's going on.
Yeah, it's going crazy.
So Nevin and I often talk, like, Nevin and I, for better or worse, were sort of lumped in as sort of and Nevin and I didn't used to be friends at all.
Oh, wow.
In fact, we didn't actually get along at all. We didn't know each other at all. because we thought very differently.
Yeah.
But what was interesting was Cassis, like, they saw us going against the grain, and they did not like us. And so we were sort of the outcasts.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
And so, but then we went to Fulmore Middle School, where, like, thinking out of the box and doing that was really fun.
Yeah.
And so I think that, like, and both Nevin and I, we weren't naturally extroverted people at all. But I think that, like, Fulmore was very much like, dude, these guys are fucking, like, they're on a wavelength, so they sort of push us forward.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's sort of how that ended up.
That's amazing, yeah.
But what's very interesting is, and I think this is, and I guess this is kind of what I'm saying, is like Nevin, he's one of those guys who, like, everybody knows him for being incredibly smart.
Yeah.
Nobody knows how incredibly loving that guy is.
I've definitely seen
Like, that guy, like, when he's somebody who, like, he's such a great friend. Like,
Yeah.
there are friends that you have that are dog shit. I'm a horrible friend.
Sometimes I am in that boat of just being like, I should have thought about that person, not myself here. Yeah.
But Nevin is always that guy who, like, the people that he's very close with, like, he cares so much for them. And also, and I think this is very interesting too, is like, I think everybody knows Nevin as this guy who's very smart and knows everything.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't see how Nevin actually applies his knowledge.
Okay, yeah.
Because Nevin is an extremely deep thinker.
After talking to him for a while, I had SciTech, I've had a few classes with him. That is very,
Because everyone is super impressed by, like, oh, Nevin knows all these facts about Winston Churchill or whatever. And I sit here and go, dude, that's jack shit.
That's a surface level, yeah.
Like, you really start talking to Nevin and, you know, you start talking about sort of those greater sort of philosophical questions and you start going deep, like, holy smoke.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah,
In
most
an
definitely.
Awesome way. But it begs the question too, and how do I say this? I think that, and he's the only one that I've met that has that. And I don't mean that in a dick way.
No. It's definitely it's in an amazing way. I definitely see that.
And, like, there are some people, and I don't know why this is, but there are some people who, like, I talk to.
Yeah.
And I think we all know these, like, everybody knows it. If you, like, that, like, you sit there and they're, like, in, like, nothing, you know what I mean?
You can't have a podcast with them. You couldn't sit them down, yeah.
And then there are other people who you sit there and they're just blowing your mind. You know? And, like, you're one of those people. Like, when I talk to you...
Oh, thank you.
I don't even know if you realize, but, dude... Like,
I definitely do not.
No, they're, like, your personality is incredible, and, like, the things that you say, like, there are things that you said to me just, like, talking stuff, I was like, damn, that's pretty good, you know?
Thank you, yeah.
But I will say, like, when I sit with Nevin, it's like, holy
You can't
shit.
compare that to anything.
No, and it's a weird experience.
Yeah.
It's a weird one.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Have you ever had, and this is kind of random, have you ever had, like, how do I describe it? Almost like a sharper, you know, like when you're doing something and things feel a lot sharper, and, like, you know what I mean?
Use another word, because I'm not picking up on your sharpness.
All right. See, this is great. Elliot's like, yeah, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. Almost like what you're doing is more real, or like it feels like the moment is enhanced. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I don't think I can think of an example right off the top of my head, but I think something that's like really been like is I've had a lot of experiences with friends of like going through people that had a sudden dislike for me, had a sudden like that I was good friends with for all of middle school. Wow. And I go into high school and some things gets bogged down, something gets like everything gets jumbled up, and so they suddenly say I don't want to be friends with you anymore. And wow. I think that's the aspect of, because when they tell me that it's like when those reasons, it's really, because I'm a very emotional person.
Yeah.
I very much think I want everyone to be happy, no matter if you're like of course, like the Hitlers and the Trumps don't deserve to be happy, but like all of my friends and my acquaintances, I want to be happy. And so when I hear that stuff that I've made other people unhappy and it's because of my actions, I'm
Wow.
dreaded with sorrow, and I have to like think about it, because I'm just like, what can I do? Because this is just, because the reason they give me is just who I am. And it's not like, and luckily this person, we now are really good friends once we went through that bump in our road, and now we're really good friends. But it's one of those things where it's just, it made me reevaluate who, like, my morals and my like actions.
Wow.
Because one of the biggest things that I always said is just like, I have no filter. I don't think before I say something. And so that's kind of what I've done, is like I've hesitated before. Like, I'm a very jokester person, and like sitting down with Sally, like when I was sitting right there, there's a lot of things where I just wanted to be like, oh, like something like this, and just say a snarky comment. And it's like, no, wait, Sally's talking about a very like important thing here to her life. I don't need to interject that to make it funny. This is a important thing. I don't need to make everything a joke, need to make people laugh at what I'm saying.
I see. Whoa, so oh shit, dude, it's getting deep now.
Yeah.
So talk to me. So was this, really quick, was this a friend, or was this more of a romantic relationship?
This is a friend. This is completely a friend. Yeah, I've like there. You know how when you have a friend. This is someone of the opposite sex. So it's like when I have a friend who's that. Oh, I like them for like a three weeks in somewhere in like middle school. But then it's like they've been just a really good friend of mine throughout. Yeah, sixth grade.
And they basically were like, hey, bro. And walk me through. I wanna
Yeah, I can help you.
This. So they went in and they basically said like, "Hey, I don't like." And did they say?
They basically. I had some things that actions in a relationship, in an actual relationship that I had, that they didn't like how I took that. They didn't like how I took that, and they're like, "That was really irresponsible of you, Elliot." I don't know if it's like that, and then also the fact is they're like, you have actively made jokes about my interests and the things that I feel very like are very important to me, and you make me feel less about myself. And I'm like,
Wow.
I never knew this. I never knew that you took those so serious. Like, it's the phrase, "It's just a joke, man," can't go that far. It's like, and so I'm like, I never knew this, and I tried my best, and they're like, "Elliot, this is who you are. I don't know if I can separate myself from that until like I feel better about myself." And so eventually we came back, and she told me, she was like, it was an emotional time for me. That was something where it's like, it was definitely something where it's like, it was not my best, and I was like, yeah, but this was also on me. And so it's been this friendly banter of whose fault is it sent to this day, but it's like, it's definitely was something where that situation, it was a phone call that I got some random day. And it was just unwarranted. And again, she was one of my best friends leading up to that day. And luckily we've grown back from it. But it was this like a steady hill, plummet drop, and then like I just stayed down there until I found. And luckily through that downhill, I found some other people there, and those people I still talk to and still see them in the halls and all that stuff, because I found them through video games and stuff like that, because I really like hanging out with people. I don't want to do things on my own.
Yeah.
And so through that like plummet, I found those other people that I could hang out with, and they weren't associated with the friend that I had, like the friend that like kind of like that I lost in the way. They weren't associated with them at all, and so that just. But then once I was able to contact the friend, she realized, I realized, and we all kind of came back and started back up again.
Well, that's so interesting, and I know Sally mentioned this earlier in the podcast.
Yeah.
She talked about this idea of like reinventing yourself.
Yeah.
And it's very tough because like there will always be people who are gonna shit on you, right?
Yeah.
Like there are always those people like, "Oh man, you fucking suck," and like
yeah, it's.
And there's always gonna be like assholes and people that just like they're just trying to hurt you, like they're not trying to do anything. But then there's those people that you really respect, that you're really tight with, and they drop that I mean, it feels like a bombshell.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, hey, dude, like, you need to change. Like, this isn't okay.
Yeah, it's not like the banter that you get from any old person. It's the ones that are heavy. Yeah.
And it's those conversations that, like, in the moment suck.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you said it yourself, and I think you said it very well. Where, I mean, you're just like, it feels as if you're hitting rock bottom.
Oh yeah.
Right? And like you're in your feels, and you're like, oh fuck. You know?
You just don't know. Yeah.
But looking back, I mean, do you feel like almost it was worth it?
Most definitely. I still to this day thank her for like, not for the feelings that I went through at the time, but kind of thank her for like realizing, like, because it was definitely a moment of realization that I'm like, this is who I am, and my pros of who I am is I want to make everyone happy, but my cons is that I don't know how, but unless by like making people laugh and I don't really know how, because I don't understand the individual. I understand the group dynamic. And so I kind of was like, I need to understand people at their individual soul, like at who they are. And so or like making them feel safe around me was like the biggest thing, because I was just like, a lot of people see my extrovertedness, see my craziness, and they're like, I don't want to hang around that person. They're just going to get me into trouble. They're just going to, and I'm like, that's not me. I just want to, that's like, other people find that fun to have that extra, like my introvert friends, fun to have that extroverted friend. And then my extroverted friends, we all are just wilding out. And so it's like, and so it's just one of those things where I just need to realize that not everyone is the same, and that I can't make the same jokes to the same person. That they will go differently.
Now, you brought something up that's very, very interesting. This idea of like, you want to make people happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's beautiful. That's something that I strive to do on a daily basis as well. You know,
Yeah.
like if I can make one, like if I can make one person smile, like shit, like I did something well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that's interesting because there's a lot of people in this world who do not believe that whatsoever. And it's weird, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It's really weird.
And you see them too, you know, and you see how they interact, and it's like, maybe you're walking down the street and you see somebody just say something horrible, and you see the other, you know, or you just see something really bad, or shoot, even seeing somebody litter, you know,
Yeah.
It's like, dude, what the fuck?
Like, what are you doing? Yeah.
Yeah. But I think do you know? Because I've asked myself this all the time. It's like, where does that mentality come from?
Another friend that I've had that I've sort of grown distant from, but she still had a big influence on my life, is that she has always said she's brutally truthful. And I think a lot of the time is that it's not a matter of selfishness, it's just a matter of, I'm going to say what I am going to say, and you can't do anything about it. Kind of this like idea that, not that you're above everyone, but that you're just like you feel as a way kind of like that father or mother figure, or like just that parental figure, that's what like I feel like comes from those actions and stuff like that, is that idea that you can't do anything about it. It's like, especially in that high school aspect, especially at LASA in middle school, no one's going to beat you up. No one's going to get you down on the ground because you might have said a racist joke, or like not, or like even like anything where it's just like, that hurt my feelings. The chances of someone just telling you, hey, that sucked, like that was not uncalled for, and something like that, are pretty slim, because the majority of us at LASA and a majority of a lot of people just want those people to be happy, even the ones that will hurt you from the end. And so I think it's that trade where it's like, those people get to thrive because we're suffering. And that's kind of like why I've grown kind of distant from this person, is because it's like, it's rough. And
Whoa, all right, let's take a step back. So what you're saying right now, and I think this is fucking brilliant. Holy shit. So you're saying that, okay, there's a group of people in this world who they want people to be happy.
Yeah.
And
both of us are in that.
Right, yeah. Let's go. And you're saying that in an effort to So in our perception, what you're saying is that we allow people
Yeah.
to basically shit on us or to basically screw us over so that they can be happy.
Exactly.
So almost we are sacrificing our happiness to allow for other people's happiness.
Exactly. And
Holy fuck, dude! Wow.
my mother has told me this. My mother has told me this, and in the same way. And I think about this. I'm like, wait, but I'm happy because they're happy. And I'm like, they're like, no, you're not. My mom is like, no, you're not happy. You're clearly not going through something where you are happy. You're clearly going through something that you think you're happy because everyone around you is happy. But really, you just, like, this person, like, I've just been through a lot of things where I don't want to, like, put out any names or put out any person. It's just, like, I've done a lot of things where people have just, like, dogged on me. And I'm just, like, and I'm, like, and I kind of have to be, like, cool. Like, to put it in, like, a very simple aspect, it's, like, cutting, I experienced this in the lunch line. It's, like, someone cutting in line. Is that if I was the bigger person, if I was the person that would, like, that gets happiness out of not gets happiness, but more or less, like, feels like they have, like, an obligation to do the right thing or something like that, I would step in front and be like, hey, stop, go to the back of the line. But I want those people to get their lunch. They're going, and I just let them walk all the way through, making me wait the extra 3 minutes for them to go through, making me, like, feel, because I was talking to Andrew Winsner,
I've had him on the
you've had him on the
podcast,
podcast, and he's just like, and he was like, and it's like, well, it's like whatever happens, because they're doing their thing, let them be them. And so it's like, it's just hard because it's like, you don't realize what I'm doing for you, like, you don't realize that I could stand up to you, and it's purely just that selfish desire all the way through, and it's not. And for me, it's like, wait, you're just, hey, as long as you keep going and you feel good, go ahead. I guess I won't interfere with what you're doing.
So maybe what should be done is almost an Aristotle type of approach of finding that middle ground.
Yeah.
Because we've got people over here. I'll do it this way. So
Yeah.
We've got the assholes in this side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Actually, no, because you're not. Why am I doing it?
It's okay.
I'm the asshole. Okay. We've got people of decency on this side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And we've got assholes over here.
Yeah.
Right? And the assholes, like, they just go and do what they want to do no matter the consequences.
Yeah.
They do not care about anyone else's happiness except themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have people on the other side of the spectrum. And I think we both fall into that.
Yeah. No one's over here.
Where it is, I want people to be happy so much to the extent that I will sacrifice my happiness almost at let's just say at an unsustainable rate.
Exactly, yeah.
For the happiness of others.
Exactly.
So the key that I think we have to find is what's in the middle, right? What's that level of, like, hey, like, you're a good person and, like, you're trying, like, you know, you work hard to make people feel cherished and, like, you give happiness. But on the flip side, hey, like, if you're an asshole, like, dude, that's
stop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, and you mentioned this in the lunch line example, and I think this is kind of the weird kicker of this.
Yeah.
When that person cuts the line, they're not just cutting you. They're cutting everyone else in that line.
Mm-hmm.
If you stand up to them, you may be making that person a little unhappy. But you're standing up not just for yourself, but for the entirety of that line.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost a kind of a weird utilitarian.
And that's where the aspect of my own selfishness is, that I'm standing up because I don't want to be put down. Like, I don't want to be the person that, like, gets basically said, no, I'm going to cut this line. And I can't, eventually I just can't do anything because they're 6'4", 400-pound person that I'm not going to stand up to. And it's like, I let them go, but it's like, it's that selfishness of like, wait, because in a way I'm making myself happy in that aspect of I'm not demoralizing myself. I'm not making myself feel like lesser because I'm not standing up to this person. So it's that neutral of let all these other people go. It's like let this person cut. Make myself a little bit feel worse, but also a little bit happy because I didn't feel this. So I'm like net neutral. But then everybody else behind me is getting screwed. And I'm like, wait, this is, and then you realize this is my fault, or is this everyone else's fault? And I think that's where the two mentalities of the assholes and the nice people go, like, is actually pretty apparent. Was if the assholes think it's everyone else's fault. It's everyone else's fault. They should have stood up. I don't care. I don't care if this person cuts. And the nice people think they're like, this is my fault. I should have stood up. I could have done something. Not that everyone else could have done something.
Wow. Dude, holy smokes. If y'all haven't recognized, this is some heavy shit.
Yeah.
Wow. So then I guess the question is, if you're in that middle ground, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're in that let's say the golden zone. I feel like you would stand up.
I think you would,
Right?
because
And you do so in a constructive manner, obviously.
yeah, I think you would, and bringing it back to that friendship thing, the person that told me what I was doing wrong did it in the way that I felt both happy and sad at the same time, because I was sad that I was losing a friend, but happy that I was realizing my mistakes. And I think she approached that in a very good manner. Maybe not calling me at a random time, but approaching me as an aspect of this is what here's your list. I am very list oriented. If I can check off everything off the list, I feel good. Here's your list of things that you have done wrong to me. And if you want to be my friend, either change it or we have to like discuss it and see how this goes down.
Wow.
And so I think that kind of going through that list, I was able to like look at the top priority things and being like, this is my personality. These things, these were one-offs, but this is my personality. These are the things that are like, I need to realize. I don't maybe need to change them. I don't maybe need to fix it right now, fix it over the next month, but I need to realize that they are there. And every day, if I'm like stopping myself from saying a comment that might go well, might not, or if I'm stopping myself from making someone feel bad about themselves because I'm just like joking about their outfit for the day, if I'm stopping myself, that's one step towards the better direction. So I think that she definitely made me like, she approached that in that golden aspect of like, by pushing someone down, give them a reason, give them the reasons, give them there's something where they can change. It's not, you don't need to push them down and be like, you're this person and this, it's like, you're a bad person, you've done so many bad things. Giving me like, hey, I don't really want to be friends with you because you've just acted so immature around me. And it's like, I need to up my maturity. And that's a point where it's like, that's my goal in this next, whatever you want to do in this life. It's something where it's all along those lines.
So we could say, and for this is in this particular scenario,
Yeah.
not on the grand scheme of things, but on this particular scenario,
Yeah.
she was the one who was, let's just say, getting sort of trampled on almost.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I don't mean this in a mean way.
No, yeah.
But she was the one who was essentially kind of she was essentially sacrificing her happiness for you in this
In a way,
setting.
yeah.
And so, and she was doing it for so long and it just wasn't sustainable. And so at one point, she just kind of had this moment where she said, hey, like, if you want to keep this going, like, I need to stop sacrificing my happiness for yours. And in order to do that, I need you to do this, and this.
I think,
right?
and it definitely, and it wasn't even, if you want to keep this going, it was definitely we need to stop. It is.
Yeah.
Like, Elliot, I do not believe that you can change over a day.
Wow.
Give me time while also giving you time. But the way she phrased it was kind of like, I need space from you. It's like, no matter and we may talk, we may see each other in the halls, but it's definitely like I don't need to be around you as often as I am, because right now you're hurting my mentality more than you're helping me.
Wow.
And so I think that was something where it's just like, I've done that to someone, and that she's not the only one. And that was kind of like the big kind of like, oh, okay, we need to take this back and assess. And I kind of took a lot of days talking to my mom, who's just an amazing person, talking to me, helps me through my feelings. One of my favorite quotes from her is, "Elliot, you are not a bad person. You are just stupid."
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
And I'm
Wow,
like,
wow,
because
wow.
I've made some stupid choices, but nothing out of bad intent. And nothing out of the aspect of, like, I want to hurt you. It's just out of being funny, being, like, a teen, or being, like, those things where it's like, you're not doing these to be, like, to make someone feel bad, to make someone do anything. You're doing this in the way of, like, the filter. It's like you're doing this because you think it's funny, and it's a little bit boosting towards you. If other people laugh, you feel good about yourself. If other people feel happy, you feel good about yourself. But it's that sacrifice, because it's like some of the times that people feel bad and they don't realize it, you feel fine because you're net neutral, but you've done dominoes of, like, things and they never tell you, because they want you to be happy.
Yeah.
And it's that interaction between happy and happy, like someone who wants happiness and someone who wants happiness, sometimes can just go so south, because no one will say anything, and it will just keep going down until you will just be like,
You're breaking.
until you've come down. And it's like, it's like, it's been a while since I've, like, reassessed our situation here, and sometimes you make me happy, and sometimes, and actually the most of the time, you're just not. You're just making things more sufferable for me. And that's, like, kind of like the thing with that whole situation, and that whole, like, golden rule and everything kind of, like, coming together. It's just like, you need to think about yourself in the aspect of yourself is the happiness of the group. Is that you can't, with bringing yourself down is bringing everyone else down. Bringing yourself up is also bringing yourself up. In that same situation, blocking the line, you're helping everyone behind you. It's like you're helping everyone behind you, and you realize that. Even if the person pushes past you and doesn't give a jack shit about you, that people see that you did that, and you may feel bad, but remember, your happiness is your group. And the majority of people have raised their happiness because you tried. And also because they're like, that guy's a dick. And so everyone feels better for you and better about themselves. And so then your little bit of feeling of, oh, well, that was, yeah, stupid, is overall a gain for the group. And I think thinking about yourself as a group is, this is all off the top of my head, but I think it's definitely something where it's like
genius, dude. I love
something where it's an aspect that you just need to, like, take. That you are a group of people, no matter if it's a group you don't know or a group that has been friends for 10 years.
Well, and I think it's so interesting, too, that you talked about almost like when you have two selfless people, how sometimes there's this trickling down effect.
Yeah.
Like, shit. And you kind of hit that rock bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's so important, and I fail to do this all of the time, and I admit I need to get a lot better at this, is the active action of communication.
Yeah.
Right? And that's not just like, oh, we're talking, ha ha, he, but it's actually saying shit.
Yeah.
It's saying the shit that you need to say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because maybe, had this person said what she had said a little earlier on, maybe things wouldn't have been as rough.
As detrimental, yeah.
Or, on the flip side, had she never said that to you, do you think you'd be who you are today?
I honestly don't think I would. I think I definitely would be similar in aspects, but other things have just basically made me realize that these, like, situations and stuff like that, where it's like, I think if the aspect of if she never told me, thinking about it now, if like, let's say I traveled to an alternate universe she never told me, I would look at that alternate universe and be like, she's been unhappy with you in your situation for 3 years now, buddy. You should realize this. But in that alternate universe, I would feel fine because she's never said anything. And so it's until, and I think eventually one person will notice. One person like this, she's avoiding me, she's not doing anything, she's like, it doesn't seem like we're friends anymore. And one person, and like myself, would probably be like, what's up here? And that would be, again, but it'd be so much worse if she waits. The longer she waited, the longer it would be, and how detrimental it would be. But like, again, if it was shorter, things could have either been resolved faster, or just the like friendship just would have been like dissipated. If it happened with such a low basis, like if there's not enough substance there, I would have been like, you're being an asshole. Ooh, and I'm like, you have no basis to say you're not my friend anymore. I don't see this. And yes, I would love to be your friend, but if you're trying to break off our friendship with no basis, maybe I don't want to be friends with you. And it's like,
so honestly, what you're saying is she told you at the right time.
Yeah, it was a time where it was during COVID and everything, but it was a time where it was just like, we weren't seeing each other at school. We weren't seeing, and so it was just, it felt, maybe you can't go back, but it felt like the right time of not too early where things either could have gone bad or something, but not too late where it was just super demoralizing and detrimental and just saddening to my soul.
Wow. Dude, that's heavy.
Yeah, I don't think I've talked about that in that much for ever since it happened.
No, well, yeah, this show has a tendency to do that. So
yeah.
I apologize if that was
You're good.
painful. But I think that's such a powerful experience.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, the wisdom that you gained from it was so great. And
yeah.
the wisdom that now everyone's getting. Like, it's a beautiful sort of flow. And I think it's interesting. Do you, and this is we just keep going deeper here.
Yeah.
Do you think that, because I'll be honest, like I'm a religious person. I'm a spiritual person. And like when I hear stories like this, there's always sort of this thing of like, hey, like did the universe intend for this? Like, you know, it almost feels so perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that like this just was like a freak thing and happened, or do you feel like there was sort of almost like a universal force that sort of made this?
I'm not much of a person. I'm very much of my actions are my actions. Fate is not something, I just don't like to think about it. I don't like to think about the aspects of like what I do is not what I want. Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of the time that I like to think about like the free will, and but I definitely think some actions that I did beforehand, before all of this, definitely led up to this. Something, I did not get much of a punishment from those actions than I should have, and this was my punishment. This was the punishment that I deserved, in a way. Because, like, I had some smaller actions that were saddening to me and made me feel less about myself, but were never something that was something I could always kind of bounce back from, because I had a justification. But this, it was that true kind of feeling of, and that's the hit, and that's where it stops. Like, that it's kind of like, and that if it never happened, that it's like, I would still feel, in a more or less a way, like really cocky, kind of like being like, I haven't done anything wrong in my life, woo! Like, yeah, feeling too good about myself.
So it kind of brought almost like a humility.
Exactly, yeah.
Wow, dude, that's really, that's a powerful thing. And you said your mom and people around you sort of helped you.
Yeah, I had a friend who I will disclose because she is an amazing person. Eleanor Johnson, if you've ever interacted with her.
I think I've met her a few times.
She has been a friend through everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because she was also a friend to this girl who, like, she was somewhat, and I don't want to like out this person because Eleanor has a lot of friends. But I think one of the things that Eleanor has always been there for me, almost as much as my mother or something.
Wow.
She in that when that friendship broke down, she was there with her friend and me. She was there for both of us.
Wow.
Which is just wild because then she's also crushing it at school and crushing it and I'm just like, girl, you're insane.
Yeah.
And I think it was one of those things where it's like she has just always Eleanor's just really been that friend mentor in a way. It's that she's not I'm not real. I do look up to her and I sometimes compare myself to her, but it's kind of like that aspect of she will never not have my back. And I think the person that broke my friendship and then came back from it, I've also grown that from her because now we've gone through that, and it's that aspect of she trusts me now. She has a deeper trust and relationship with me a deeper friendship. I don't like relationship and friendship. When I mean both, but it's deeper friendship with me that it's just so great that, and yeah, she is Eleanor and this undisclosed person have been my friends for a while, and Eleanor and I have never gone through dips, but this friend, if in a way, they're both equal in my eyes, and it's kind of amazing because of how I feel really lucky that I sometimes lost friends that haven't been very good in my life, but I've gained friends that have benefited me so much, and lost and then gained back friends that just changed my life for so much, for the better in so many ways.
And so I guess, and this is a question that is probably cliche to ask, but I feel like it's important to ask.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously you've gone through this journey.
Yeah.
Right? And there are moments of it that fucking suck. Right?
Yeah.
You're geez, I feel like shit, this is terrible, right? That low. But then obviously through hard work, perseverance, and just kind of through yourself and through the help of others, you kind of have this let's get it back together, let's fix something, let's go back to the drawing board and really improve on these areas. And then now, I feel dude, you're fucking balling, right?
Thank you, dude.
And I think it's important, but I think it's important to ask, where do you, obviously we're in senior year, right?
That's weird.
This is I know, it doesn't feel
It does not feel real. It does not feel real.
Where do you think you're gonna go? Where do you see yourself moving from this point on? And it doesn't have to be about college or anything, but just generally.
I think, just not to cut you short, if you
No,
want. Okay, but I think one of my biggest thing is that I love math. Math has been my favorite subject and stuff like that. Is that I want to do things with my hands. I want to tinker. I want to build things. To talk about majors, computer hardware engineering is what I been looking towards.
Wow.
And because I don't want to code, because coding feels like there's not that much. I'm what I see in it is a bunch of numbers and bunch of letters, and it's not something where it's there's not significant there. I'm building computer stuff. I can build the most modern motherboard that has ever existed, and feel good because I realize it's here in my hands. Code is one of those things where it's I'm huh? And so, but I've always wanted
something tangible.
Tangible, that's the word, yeah. And so I've always been mechanical engineering and that stuff, and I've just been on this search. Computer hardware engineering is what I found most recently. But I've never, being a teacher has always been something that's kind of a backup. But I've never really had this clear goal of career, or I definitely just see myself being a friendly person to, I don't want to work in a cubicle.
Yeah.
I want to work in an open setting where everyone's thinking and working together. And so I think that's something where it's being a teacher, my dad has influenced me so much in that aspect. And so I think it's and then also something that I've had an interest in but never really pursued is cosmetology. I want to be a hairstylist.
Ooh, okay.
And if that can be like my 80s, and I mean I'm a hairstylist, like I went through cosmetology school in like 75, and then I'm like like this old guy that like I have like 3 customers, I'd be happy with, because it's something that I want to do, but I never really gotten into like summer programs or classes out of school and stuff like that. And so it's like, but it's again just this aspect of being friendly. It's this, you have to be able to be social. You can't, if you have an introverted hairstylist, sitting there is sometimes really awkward.
Yeah.
And well, like, because you don't know if they're going to mess up. They're not telling you anything. And so I think just that being in a friendly setting is definitely where I want to go from here.
And so you're pretty interested in building that hardware, essentially.
Yeah.
Dude, I gotta hook you up with my man Carter Sherrill.
Okay.
He's
built. I've seen his computer on Zoom and stuff like that.
I'm gonna do a quick shout out to my man Carter Sherrill. Carter Sherrill. He's very much like you in the sense that he's obviously a lot more introverted than you, but in terms of his interests are very similar.
Yeah, I went to elementary school with him. We were Brykerwoods kids.
Oh, I didn't know you went to Brykerwoods. What?
Yeah.
All right. BW gang.
BW.
But what's so, like, I remember, I mean, he is such a, dude, just like Nevin, like, I love that man to death. He's a fucking beast. And, like, very similar, very, like, he's a very mathematically and sort of engineering-oriented kind of guy.
Yeah.
But so good with his hands. You know, loves the computer. He's building a car right now.
Ooh.
Yeah, like
I would love to do that. Yeah.
So I definitely, I gotta get you two in a room and just like let y'all just be like, here's some shit.
Here's a mic.
Well, no, and I just put y'all in a workshop or garage and see what crazy stuff.
Yeah, I definitely I haven't had enough experience with it, just because my family, it's like my dad's very interested in it, but my mom has a lot to do on their hands. My dad has a lot to do on their hands. I have band and everything.
Yeah.
So when it comes to it, it's like me pursuing those. Like, I never did robotics, which is just like,
Ooh,
I was talking to my mom today, and she was like, if you're gonna go into that major, you're gonna run into a lot of those kids that have been doing robotics for 6+ years. And I'm gonna be like, yeah, but college is about learning. College is about, this is what my dad says, like, college is about learning. College isn't about already knowing, like, and just improving. And so it's kind of just like, that's like, you're gonna run into those people that know much, much more than you. And that's going to be for every major. Every major, you're going to have that kid that went to the major for weird, like, physics, science, like, school. And that was their school of, like, 2. And they just they've been pursuing a career since, like, the age of 5. And it's like, you can't do anything with those kids.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Wow. Well, no, I definitely, now you got the idea in my head. Well, and it's actually, this is really funny. You won't believe this.
Okay.
So Carter actually was with me when you sent me that message.
Oh.
And you know what? He offered to take you home. Because he said, because he's in football.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, like, I don't know, because he didn't know that we were doing the podcast.
Yeah.
And so he was like, hey, like, I know, like, I'm going to be here till, like, 7, but
yeah.
it's still here. I'll take him home.
Yeah,
so,
that's so
that's
so funny.
Really
that's
cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I definitely. Now I gotta get y'all two together. I think y'all would have a great time.
Yeah.
But that's so. And I have to ask, because I'm gonna be honest with you, math hurts me. It like hurts my.
That's what I hear from a lot of people. Yeah.
I've always been a little bit more of like a non. I love science.
Yeah.
Science, I love. I love science. Math. Oh, like it hurts. It hurts my body. And I have to ask, how did you develop the love for math? Do you know how that happened?
Simple answer is 2 words. My father. Okay. He's a math teacher. He's just kind of from day one of like, I've just known, like, I've like been around math. I've been around the simple versions of math. Not like, if he was a college professor, I maybe wouldn't have, because I was seeing the hundreds of number calculations on his board that I'm like, nope, don't want to deal with that. But I've seen he teaches geometry. He teaches the level of geometry which is like understandable. And so I'm like, this is, and I really understand this. And then the second thing is, every problem has an answer. And this is why I despise English. Because
that's where okay.
Because English, I can't change my writing. Because I write very conversationally. I write in the same way I'm talking to you. And I can't change. And like in English, my grade, I could put in the same paper to 2 different people and get a 70 and 104. In math, I could turn in the same hundreds problems and get the same grade to a college professor and a 7th grade algebra teacher.
I see. So almost the you really enjoy the like almost black and white nature of math. And sort of the gray zone, the subjectivity of sort of the literature realm is like no.
I think a lot of the time with English is that I love expressing myself, kind of, but it's very subject to, if I can express myself of who I am, great. But I don't want to follow a rule. I don't want to be like, write a formal paper in formal writing on why LASA's colors are navy blue. I'm like, I don't want to. It's like, that's not my interest. And I think with going back to the first thing that started this podcast, YAG, is like the mock trial, is that I'm going to be able to realize like, I can express myself as a character but also on a character that's not going to agree with my views. On something where it's like a character that's never, or a witness that's never going to, we are never going to meet as like this character and this person and me, and we'll just like, but I'm going to be able to express myself still, even through something that's not really.
So you're expressing yourself through the script,
yeah, exactly. Expressing because it's that idea of like through theater, it's like that interpretation of, everyone has a different interpretation of a character, of what a character is. There's those baselines that's like, this character is a sad person throughout the thing, and then at the very end they're really happy, and like you have to follow that. But it's like how I would express it's like sad but has this potential, happy but misses the like introverted sadness. And it's like those are just examples, but I think that's something where it's like, it's just so up in the air with that stuff, is that if I can express myself, I can do really well. And that's like why math is like, because I can express myself through the numbers. I can express myself because they're showing my work and figuring out like proofs. I'm in AMR right now, and proving stuff is like amazing.
What does AMR stand for?
Advanced Mathematic Reasoning, which is just proving things practically.
Really quick, run me through like what are y'all doing?
So right now what we're doing is we're doing something called Euler circuits, which are points and edges, points and lines basically. Is that you take a point, you take a line. So if you make a triangle, it's an Euler circuit because you can start and stop at the same line. Yeah. You can start and stop at the same point and make it to the same thing by only taking one line once. Okay. So it's any sort of like octagon or anything you think of like that, but then you add another line. It's kind of what we're doing is proving that how can you make an Euler circuit for any number of points, any number of lines. And then what we just got into today's class is different colors, like different sides. If you had an octagon that was half red, half blue, you can't connect it's really weird, but it's really interesting in a way of like learning. And then also we have some people in our class which have just already done this before, and it's so. I'm not the person that's really accelerated in math. I just really like it. I'm not like the person that will take 7 math classes because why not? I'm like I'll take one, really enjoy that class, and be happy with it. Yeah. Because I don't like to overexert myself, and I hate to cut this on my own terms, but my mother is.
Oh
calling.
My gosh! No, it is all good. Take a guess. I always do this. Take a guess on how long you think we've been doing this podcast for.
And now we're in 20.
Hour and 23. Wow.
Okay.
Woo! Boy, you are close. You are close.
Wow.
Well, before we end this thing, I do 2 things. I always ask how long you think the podcast was. That was impressive. Damn. No wonder you're good at math. But I guess my last thing is there anything you'd like to say before we finish this off?
Go to our football games. Marching Man's there. LASA football. Look it up. There's a lot of places that you can find it. Marching Man will be performing on halftimes on every single football game. And the football team, they're on a steep incline. They're getting there. They're getting there. But our marching band is 130 people of pure sound and pure awesomeness, so it's totally hype. You can come, no matter who you are, just get tickets. Amazing.
Being a student section leader and having watched this marching band, they're fucking amazing. So show up to the game. With that, we're going to end this episode of the H2O Show. I want to thank Elliot, Sally for coming on for that first section. That was super awesome. And yeah, I'm gonna get my life together and start making more of these. So definitely stay tuned. How consistent I'm gonna be, I don't know.
Well, now you have LASA. You can bring in any old Joe in the library and just be like, we're gonna ask some questions today.
But yeah, no, I'm definitely we're definitely gonna get this back on track because obviously COVID kind of fucked things up for a bit. But yeah, with that, thank you. You made it this far, and we out.
We outie.
Adios, y'all.
Dude, thanks for doing this. No problem, dude. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I've been wanting to come on for a while. I've been like leaning for it.